Good morning again, and I want to add my welcome from the Center for Bioethics and Social Science and Medicine. We're really delighted to see you all here today. And I thought it would be interesting, as I was preparing for today, I happened to notice, I also work in the Netherlands, that as we are sitting here today in Ann Arbor, in Utrecht actually, a conference is going on right now on personalized medicine, and you guys can all read Dutch, it's great, and the role of big data. Boundless or endless possibilities. So it's interesting to me that we're kind of capturing a moment. It's not just a moment here, but it's a moment across the globe where people are starting to think about these issues. Although I think we have something special going on here because we are considering the ethical, legal, and social implications. So just a little bit about the day. I just want to set up the day and get us kind of in a mindset to think about what we're going to do today. This is in your program, but I want you to especially appreciate how hard we worked to do the alliteration. We couldn't quite figure that out for session 4, but so we'll be talking about ethics, engagement, equity, and law and policy in these issues. And really our goal here is just to start a conversation, although I think a lot of you might know that the conversation more or less began with the publication of this special supplement to the Hastings Center report, where Ruth Faden and her colleagues put together a few articles on the ethics framework for thinking about learning health systems. And they, just very briefly, I'm guessing a lot of you haven't read this, they set up this framework and they start with this assumption that clinical research and clinical practice are not ethically fundamentally different enterprises. They also go on in this particular collection of articles to bring together the arguments that morally justify the transformation to a learning health system. What I want to say is today we're going to explore these assumptions a little bit, maybe walk some of them back, and actually go a little deeper into these things. So really, we're talking about creating an ELSI of Learning Health Systems 2.0, if you consider Faden et al. As 1.0. And really what they did, and I don't want to give you all the details, but they came up with 7 obligations of a learning health system. And that's sort of talking about what's the interior workings, what are the ethical obligations within the learning health system. But we're going to expand that a little bit today by looking in ELSI 2.0 as what about the inputs to a learning health system? Where does the data come from that informs the learning health system? And there are clearly ethical questions there. What are the effects of an electronic health record? How does that influence the relationship between caregivers and patients? Also, when you create a health record, how do you import unreflectively the norms and notions of your society? Also worth thinking about. And then on the other side, we're also interested in outputs. And just as one example, there was a recent paper by O'Darty and his colleagues that talked about the fact that, yeah, the data we're collecting is very useful for thinking about medical problems, but it can be used in other ways. Some of those ways are benign, like helping identify victims in mass casualty events, but some are not so benign if you look down that list. Denial of entry at the borders. I mean, when we have these data about people, there can be effects that we need to think about, and this is outside of the framework of the learning health system. So you guys are all lucky enough to be here to watch this move from ELSI 1.0 to ELSI 2.0, and you're participating in it. We really want to hear from you and get your reflections. Now, we folks who work in medical ethics, when we think about the problems of medical systems and health systems, we draw on a lot of disciplines. So we draw on law, we draw on medicine, social work, social science, philosophy, and literature. And as we start today, I just want to share with you a short poem by the poet Rainer Maria Rilke. And it's a little meditation to get our heads in this space about the relationship between human beings and the things they create, be those machines, be those objects, or be those systems. Orpheus, do you hear the new sound droning and roaring? Many now exult in it. Though the machine insists on our praise, who can listen with all this noise? See, it rolls over everything, weakening us and taking our place. Since its strength is of our making, why can't it serve and not possess us? Food for thought as we move through the day. And now I'd like to introduce our first panel. The moderator of that panel will be my colleague, Dr. Andy Schumann, Assistant Professor of Otolaryngology and co-director of our Clinical Ethics Program. So help me welcome Andy and the first panel.